Hey, what's going on, Guardians? TBL here with a very quick news report for you guys concerning the Nintendo Switch and, more importantly, the file sizes for various eShop digital software titles for the Nintendo Switch. That's right, we've got some file sizes for the games, and I figured it was important to talk about. Now, this report was originally sourced from a user on NeoGaf, who referenced some blogs and Reddit posts talking about the Japanese Nintendo Switch page and its specific software section. Apparently, we got to see some of the file sizes for some of the games coming out, and it gives us a great idea of how many games you'll be able to fit on the Switch itself with no expandable SD memory. Alright, the games are, of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is at 13.4 gigabytes, Puyo Tetris at 1.09 gigabytes, I Am Setsuna at 1.4 gigabytes, all of which thus far seem very reasonable and surprisingly very small. Now, of course, stuff like Puyo Tetris is probably not bound to be a very large game, but most of these, with the exception of Breath of the Wild, are fairly comparable to the size of 3DS games right now. So smaller games like that, and of course Virtual Console titles, will probably not be too much of a drain on your system memory. But from here on out, we're going into the big league stuff. Next up, we've got Nobunaga's Ambition at 5 gigabytes, Disgaea 5 Complete at 5.9 gigabytes, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 7 gigabytes. And that right there, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in particular, should give you a great idea for probably the median size for Nintendo Switch games. It's probably going to be about the average size for them, and we already know that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is going to be chock full of content. It's going to have everything that originally came in Mario Kart 8, plus all of the DLC that then came out for that game. And all of that together is going to take up about 7 gigs. Next up, we've got Snipperclips at 1.6 gigabytes, and the big one on this list, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 at a whopping 32 gigabytes. That's right, the entirety of your Switch's base system memory taken up by one game. And that to me is both really surprising and not the greatest thing. It means in order to play Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, you're either going to have to buy the cartridge version of it, or you're going to have expanded memory. You're going to have an SD card that's capable of fitting all of that data. And honestly, that's kind of an optics problem for the Nintendo Switch. One of my biggest concerns about this console has obviously been the base storage space. You guys know I very much prefer buying my games digitally nowadays, since, it saves you the trouble of having to swap cartridges. I like having all of my games tightly packed in one space, and that's probably not going to be a thing on the Nintendo Switch for me. It's one of my biggest concerns about the console, and seeing something like this, like Dragon Quest Heroes, where the Switch isn't even out yet and there's already a game that can't fit on it, that's just not good. And it really just goes to further cement the issue with the Nintendo Switch. If you want to buy your games digitally, well, you're going to have to get a pretty sizable micro SD card to fit all of this stuff. Because that 32 gigs of system memory, which in all actuality is probably going to be about 28 to 29 gigabytes once you actually get the system, it's got to hold the operating system and all of that, it's not going to take you very far if if the average size of games is going to be about 5 to 7 gigabytes, which again, sounds like it would be reasonable considering Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is sitting at 7. So if you're getting a Switch, you're probably going to be forced to buy a micro SD card, which can kind of be a minefield in and of its own. But beyond that, the only option is of course to go old school and buy a bunch of cartridges that you'll have to carry around. Which for a lot of people isn't a problem. A lot of people do like buying physical copies of games. But for people like me who prefer the digital option, well, looks like the Switch is going to be a rough one for us. And it'll definitely be interesting to see how Nintendo responds to and handles the overall Switch space issue with things moving forward. We've got to have space for system updates, for DLC, for expansions, so it's going to be a very interesting time moving forward. Anyways, that's it for the news, guys. There's a link to the Japanese Nintendo page as well as the NeoGaf thread in the description box below. But what do you all think? Are you worried about the lack of storage space, or are you perfectly fine with going physical? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, I am the Black Link. You guys stay frosty.